Good evening and welcome to the regular meeting of the Commission on the Status of Women. May we please have a roll call?
Vice Chair Devine? Here. Commissioner Katafian?
Here.
Commissioner Kavanian?
Here.
Commissioner Lamel?
Here.
Commissioner Manasarian?
Here.
Commissioner Punlaki?
Here.
Commissioner Sobey? Commissioner Walker? Chair Curlin?
Here. We should note that Commissioner Sobey is absent because she is teaching the last of her classes as a professor this evening and could not be with us. May we please have a report regarding the posting of the agenda?
The agenda for the July 14th meeting was posted on the bulletin board outside of City Hall on or before July 11th, 2008.
Next item on the agenda, item 4, introductions and presentations. I see that there are none. Next item on the agenda, please.
Is oral comment. Discussion on this item is limited to items not a part of this agenda. Time is limited to an amount to be set by the chair. The commission may question or respond to the speaker, but there will be no debate or discussion. Staff may refer the matter to the proper department for investigation and report.
We'll set our standard 5 minutes of time, and I have our first card, Christina Davidian. Would you please come forward? Welcome.
Hi, my name is Christina Davidian, and I'm an 8th grader at Wilson Middle School. First of all, I'd like to thank the Commission on the Status of Women for giving me the opportunity to speak here today and for giving me the opportunity to participate in a Junior Achievements program called I Don't Need My Prince Charming. This Junior Achievements Financial Seminar was only for girls ages 10 to 18 and took place on June 21st from 9:30 a.m. to 2:30 p.m. During the event, we got the chance to become an adult for a day. We got a certain life situation with our own gross annual income, and throughout the seminar, we learned how to equally distribute and spend our money on insurance, a house, clothes, food, and so on. I was a woman 34 years of age with a 13-year-old daughter and a gross annual income of $36,852. We first decided how much we were willing to pay in each category and if we were spending our money on needs or wants. After making our decisions, we went to different stations, each station representing one category. There was a lot more to pay for than I thought. At the end of the event, I realized how hard it is to be an adult, and I wish I could stay a kid, but unfortunately that can't happen, and this program prepared me for what I can see in the future. I'd really recommend this program to other kids, so again, I'd like to thank the Commission of the Status on Women for introducing me to this wonderful event. Thank you.
Thank you.
Any questions or comments?
May I add? May I add something?
Yes.
Yes, in the interest of full disclosure, I'd like to say that she's my niece. Thank you, Christina.
Thank you.
And Christina, were you introduced to the program through the Camp Rosie?
No, through my aunt.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Okay. The next card we have, number 2, is for Caitlin Kim. Caitlin, please step forward.
Okay. I would like to thank the Commission on the Status of Women. This camp is a great camp experience for girls. I am so grateful for the Commission on the Status of Women for taking their time to create this great camp for young girls. I learned about self-defense, finance, health, babysitting, CPR, and even made wonderful friends. If I didn't go to this camp, I wouldn't have known any of this information, nor would I have such a wonderful experience. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for coming.
Thank you.
Are you enjoying the camp?
It's over now.
Okay, our next card, number 3, is for Ms. Sharon Wiseman.
Chairwoman Curlin and commissioners and staff and anyone listening. My name is Sharon Weissman. I live in far north Glendale. And first, I'd like to invite you to the next Historical Society of Crescenta Valley's meeting. If you'd like to pass them around, thank you. Our regular meeting is Monday, July 21st, starting at 7 p.m. at the La Crescenta Church of Religious Science at the intersection of Santa Carlotta and Dunsmore in La Crescenta. That's the La Crescenta part of Glendale. And the meeting will feature the story of one of the most dynamic leaders in local Indian tribes. Toy Perina was her name. She was a Tongva medicine woman who opposed the rule of Spanish missionaries in California and led an unsuccessful rebellion against them. Born in 1760, Toy Perina was 9 years old when the Spanish settlers first invaded what is now the Los Angeles Basin. She was 11 when Mission San Gabriel was begun. She was 21 when Governor Felipe de Neve founded the city of Los Angeles. In time, Toy Perina rose to a powerful spiritual leader, respected for her bravery and wisdom. It's for this reason that the Historical Society chose to portray her on the La Crescenta Library historical plaque representing the Tongva period in the history of the Crescenta Valley. And the speaker will be Dee Dominguez, the tribal chair of the Kitenemec tribe of Tejon Indians, and she is a famed storyteller and basket weaver. The meeting is open to the public, and as you see, I brought flyers. I think it might be of interest to people interested in this meeting. And the second information I'd like to share with you is about another group I'm associated with, Glendale Education Social Justice Advocates. And just to be clear, these are two completely separate organizations. And we're using a quarter sheet describing ourselves in a couple of companion groups, the two peace vigils in Glendale and Montrose. And I was putting these together for cruise night, and it was fresh in my mind as I saw your agenda, and I see you're looking at your budget for next year and upcoming master calendar. And I thought, since our current goals are on the back and there might be some overlap, I was hoping you might take a look at this and consider our group's goals and contact us if there is any overlap, and so we can work together. And some of our giveaways are the buttons. There's a variety, so you might want to mix and match. I don't know you well enough to think which peace and justice progressive cause might catch your eye, but there's some fairly generic ones too. So thank you very much for your time.
Thank you. The next speaker is Kathy Piametti.
Good evening to all of you. I'm here this evening to thank all of you for creating Rosie Goes to Wall Street, to Lana Haddad for her meticulous planning and for allowing me to be part of the program once again this year. We're off to a great start, and it wouldn't be possible if it weren't for all of you who care so much for the young women in Glendale. I just want to thank you for allowing me to be part of it again, and I commend you all for your work. Everything is going well. We started our second group today, and they're fabulous. They really are. Thank you to all of you who have made it up to Glendale College. I really appreciate that as well. And I can't say it enough times, allowing me to work collaboratively with you on such a great project. Thank you.
What were your thoughts on adding the middle school age group this year?
I think it's fabulous when you allow a girl to grow at an adolescent age. It just empowers them more. They have such a sharp young mind, and it allows them to grow and to believe in themselves. And I just feel that it's very, very beneficial to add the middle school girls.
Great, thank you. Anyone else?
Yes, I'd just like to, on behalf of, I think, Commissioner Manisteri and myself, we both have been up to the camp. I've been up there about 3 times, and I've seen the girls in action. I've seen the classes and what goes on, and you're fabulous, and you relate so well to the kids, and your instruction is so good, Kathy. We're very pleased and proud that you're part of our program. And to Caitlin, when we were there, they were doing a darling little activity about learning, saying nice things about each other and about themselves, and it was just nice to see the girls stand up and communicate and speak from the heart. And that's what this camp is all about, just teaching them to be proud of themselves, self-empower them. And I know that the self-defense was a big hit with them, and instead of saying this in commission comments, I'm just going to add that we want to thank Jill Lewis and Dr. Levy at Glendale City College, because they have been fabulous kudos, I know, to you and to all the girls that are there and to us when we've been there. So I want to thank them. Hope someone's watching tonight to see that. But you've been doing a great job. Thanks, Kathy.
Thank you.
Okay, great. Thank you. Thanks for coming back. And if you want to come regularly after each camp to check in with us, we'd love it if you can. Or if you just want to wait till the end, that's good as well, too. Okay, next item on the agenda, item 6, consent items. Item A, approval of the minutes of the regular commission meeting held on June 9th, 2008. Are there any comments, changes, additions, omissions, anything on the minutes?
I just have a small correction on the award that I was given by Glendale Adventist Hospital was the Flame of Hope Award, and it's I know last time we called it the Flame Award, but it was the Flame of Hope Award.
Okay, that's on page 3.
Mm-hmm.
We'll
Yes.
insert that change. Any other?
So
Okay, is there a motion to approve the minutes as amended?
I so move.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any further discussion? Is there unanimous consent to approve the amended minutes? Okay. The minutes are approved. And that takes us to item 7, business agenda, A, action items. A again? 1A, okay. Consideration and discussion of the 2004 strategic plan update with a motion providing direction to staff for update of the strategic plan. So I hope you all had time at some length to spend looking at our strategic plan so that you're prepared to give some comments to that. As I was talking to Lana Haddad about the direction we might take, we realized I was the last remaining original commissioner. So just to give you a quick background on it, when we were new, we didn't have any plan in place for what we should be doing. So this was our original product where we decided what might we do, how could we establish ourselves, and what should be our focus areas. So I haven't looked at this in years, and I was pretty pleased to report that we've done a pretty good job. There are a couple areas that showed as areas where we could do more, and there are quite a few areas that are ongoing, where our work doesn't end. It's sort of our core mission and the work we will continue to do. So what I thought we could do is maybe get some comments from all of you as to what it is you'd like to see in the strategic plan, and then maybe send it to a committee to develop it in more depth and bring that back so that, you know, we could sit here for hours and discuss our strategic direction, but I don't think that's necessarily the best use of our time. So if we can take notes as to any direction you want, that would be great. What I think it would be helpful to do is I did a quickie assessment of sort of hitting the highlights of what we've done well and where some of our issues are. So if you'd like, we could go through that, and that could be sort of a starting point for discussion if you think that would be helpful. Does anyone have any thoughts?
Yes, I did. I did review the strategic plan, and I was also very pleased with some of the progress that we've made. However, I thought because of the interest of time, maybe we could really plan or agendize a retreat so that all the commissioners will attend, and we will all have, we won't be pressed by time, so we can really go over it item by item. So that was my suggestion. I don't know if the commissioners would agree to that.
That was actually our original plan, and this was supposed to be our retreat. So unexpectedly, we're down 2, which sort of cuts into the discussion, but that was sort of our plan tonight, is that we would sort of do that here. What we realized is because of the Glendale policy is we'd have to be televised, and there are only certain time slots that are available to do that, and there aren't a lot of flexible locations to do that. So while I would like nothing more than for us to just sit in a room and talk about this sort of informally, it appears that that is not particularly the Glendale way. And so we are somewhat restricted by having to be televised and restricted in the time slots in which we can do activities. I know like on nonprofit boards, you can have a board retreat at somebody's house or a restaurant or whatever. We can't do that because we have to be televised. So
Was it televised the first time that was?
Yes, we actually had a consultants who came in to assist us in the development of our strategic plan, and we had food, and it was somewhat less formal. It was during the workday, however, and it was in a room in one of the other nearby buildings, and we were televised. So there's some constraints. So we thought maybe what we would do is just agendize this for tonight and have this discussion, but I realize this is not the most conducive setting in which to do that kind of work. So that's why I thought if we could at least get some ideas or direction, we can send it to a committee that has more flexibility in doing that kind of work. Any other thoughts on that?
First of all, when I read it, I was impressed. I think that you all did a very good job. Those of you that were on the first commission, the original group, it's some good thoughts behind it. And actually, there were a few kind of cosmetic changes that I thought needed to be made, but otherwise, I was impressed with the fact that we have been following right along and accomplishing a lot of the strategic plans that are built into this, and so I was impressed. And I also feel that since we are down to commissioners tonight, that we should perhaps table this until another evening when we're all here, so that everybody can put in their ideas and not just part of us, part of the commission.
Okay, anybody else have any thoughts on this?
My feeling is pretty much along the same lines. I do think this plan is outstanding, and that there's so much that we can continue to do. I do think that, is it possible if we have a brainstorming meeting that as long as we videotape it and then prepare it for it to be shown on television at a later time, is that possible, or does it have to be live?
I don't think we have the budget to do that for filming, but I think we have to be live.
It's explicit direction, actually, from the city manager, consistent with the policies of the city. Any meeting with a quorum of the commissioners for purposes like this, of commission business, it has to be a live meeting. So it does limit us in terms of when we can do it.
Okay.
Just by way of context, the initial strategic planning meeting of the commission was 8 hours long, televised live the entire day, which was a huge sacrifice on the part of all the commissioners who came and gave up their entire day to be here. So.
Hence the snacks.
Right. Has people to work that long, you gotta feed them.
I think we were in casual attire, so it was somewhat more palatable.
But only marginally so, right?
Only marginally so, yes.
But given that we don't have two of the commissioners here, I do think another time.
Okay. Commissioner Katsepin, any thoughts?
Yeah, that just going through all the items that it has been listed in here, and maybe just going each one following this procedure, and at the same time thinking of things that might be added to develop a better, maybe a strategic plan. That would be a better idea if each one of us just go through it, just write down all the items that we want to bring it to the table, and then once we are ready, maybe have it. Everyone has her own points and her own approach, points to discuss with. We can have all together a discussion and then just formulate the whole thing.
Okay, very good. Okay, Ms. Haddad, do you have any thoughts?
One of the options that Ms. Varpetian and I were just discussing was actually what we could do is bring back to the commission sort of chunk by chunk, piece by piece, and do it over the course of several meetings. That way it's a little bit more, like we talk about SMART goals and setting something that's realistic. So broken down so it's not the entire document that you're looking at, but rather parts of a strategic plan, and then fit them all together under one sort of umbrella document that we'll be producing. Actually revising, because the initial commission did a really good job at providing a document that was workable, specific enough, and yet broad enough that there could be other goals incorporated into it. So,
okay, that having been said, why don't we look at, I think we kind of skipped the strategic planning goal because that's just sort of not a really, that was just sort of the framework for starting this one. If we could look at community outreach and policy and program, those are, well, actually that's two really big, huge chunks. You know what? Let's do policy and program development because I think that's the biggest, most substantive piece for our next meeting. Does that make sense?
So for clarity, are you tabling this conversation, or are you going to have the assessment piece now and then come back for planning next time?
Sounds like not everyone is prepared to do some discussion tonight, so
What I was hearing was
What I'm-
the other two commissioners needed to
I'm hearing a
include it.
sense that the other two aren't here and that there's some need for further consideration to be prepared to have this discussion.
So right now, we're developing the order in which you want staff to bring back a discussion.
Yes.
Okay.
So I would suggest for our next meeting, let's jump in and do the biggest, most substantive section, which is policy and program development. That's 5 pages of the report. So that's actually a huge discussion, and that would be a really good one to have, and have sooner than later. I think that's more important than some of the others, which could be knocked out maybe relatively easily comparatively to that. Do we want to develop any kind of time frame then, or plan, or you want to wait until next month? Well, I thought we could maybe do some time frame planning right now as long as we're here, so that's...
Okay. Well, it seems on the brief ones, the 1 page or 2 pages, we can do a couple of them at the same time, and that way it...
Actually, it might take us 2 sessions, unless policy and program runs long. So if we did policy and program in one, I'm sorry not to
That's
cut you
okay.
off.
No.
And then maybe the others could all go together because they're of less weight, or there's less to discuss.
Okay.
So that would put community outreach and resource development together. And that's kind of it, except for adding in new material and placing it appropriately where it might go, which I think will happen naturally as we do the discussion on these other areas that already exist, unless there's something totally new that doesn't fit in this framework, and then that would be a new section. So, okay.
Did you say resource development with
Community outreach.
community outreach?
And actually, they are somewhat related, especially now. Our initial community outreach was, let's introduce ourselves, and we had a little dog and pony show to take on the road. We're sort of beyond that now, and a lot of the community outreach sort of ties in with the resource development, thinking strategically ahead as to where we might go. So does that seem like a good plan? Okay, and then if we do policy and program next and that discussion is taking too long, we'll continue that and bump the other two to the following meeting. So that would take course over the next couple of meetings. Let's see, we're in July. Should we have a draft plan for presentation to the commission in December? Does that seem workable?
December has generally been dark for the commission. So
Okay. Let's see, we have a motion that we'll be taking up later as to whether or not we have an August meeting. So let's assume, for the sake of argument, we're not having an August meeting. If we did policy and program in September, resource development and community outreach in October, we might need November for further discussion. We might not. Should we consider then January, or is that getting to be too long of a stretch?
Well, given that October is also DVAM, plus you've got two educational forums in September and October, I don't think it's too much of a stretch to put it in January. That seems like a reasonable time frame, given the holidays as well. So it seems to me like that would work, unless you wanted a very, very rough draft to come to the commission in November, depending on how far along the conversation has come, could work around that.
Okay, why don't we start with the January 2009 draft document, like a pretty good draft, to come to the commission, and if we find that we're working more quickly than expected, we can certainly expedite and revise our time frame, or conversely, we can extend it if we need to. I just want to keep a time frame so that we keep moving ahead and don't let it sit and are not actively working on it. Okay.
I had a question then.
Yes.
Do we make a formal presentation of our strategic plan to the city council afterwards, or how does
We
that
did. We did. So
Yeah.
actually, once our commission approved it, then we agendized it for presentation at a city council meeting, and we went and they had it, and I think we did like a sort of hit the highlights kind of presentation on it.
Okay.
Okay. All right. Then the second handout, which you just received today, was kind of my quick assessment, so that can help you, if for things you're not familiar with, assess sort of where I think we are in terms of what we've done and the areas where we can do better. And the document pretty much speaks for itself. I think where we need the most input from you all is new ideas. And that doesn't mean totally new necessarily, but new ideas to implement these goals. We've done certain things. What else can we do to keep moving ahead? Okay, any other discussion then on this item? Okay, so for our next meeting, we'll do the policy and program development, so please focus on that section, and we'll take that up. Okay, next item on the agenda.
Agenda item 7A-B, the numbering, I apologize, is kind of wonky. Word was giving me some difficulty having computer issues this month. Consideration and discussion of an annual budget for the Commission on the Status of Women with a motion to provide direction regarding the annual budget of the CSW.
And would you like to address the switch we're making in our budget?
It has been that the budget numbers or the finances have been reported to the Commission sort of on a calendar year basis, and it was a bit of a rolling calendar. To come better in line with the city's financial structure, we're going to be moving into the fiscal year reporting format, which is in the city from July 1st through June 30th of the following year. So the budget that you are seeing before you actually encompasses about 18 months from January 2008, which is the beginning of this year when we started looking at our numbers, clear through to the end of the fiscal year, which would be June 30th of 2009. So the activities that are included within include that entire 18-month time period.
Okay, very good. And then what you'll see we did with the report was drop in some of the budgets from specific events so that for more detail you could see where we were on those specific events, but those aren't part of the larger budget because that's like a cleaner, neater what we expect for the short year and then for the coming long year. We did approve a budget that wasn't far off from this, I think February a couple of months ago. So it's coming back for sort of the revised format and to incorporate some of the suggestions at that time. Is there anything totally different from anything that our attention should be called to from when we passed our budget in February that's of note? Anything strike you off the top of your head?
Well, with regards to the current fiscal situation the city of Glendale finds itself in overall, is that we are facing approximately, if anybody's been keeping up with the budget study sessions of City Council, nearly a $10 million shortfall in the budget. So what we wanted to do as the Women's Commission, this program budget is one of two separate funds that the Commission maintains. One is specifically for the Rosie program. That's where the grants for the program go, and so that is not included in this reporting budget. This is more like the general fund of the Commission. This commission is not affected by that shortfall, but our operating for administration, that budget has been affected by the cutbacks in management services. So that will be reflected here, and that we want to pay closer attention to the expenditures that we do for programs because we don't have as much leeway in our administrative budget to cover any expenses that we could have potentially covered for copying for programs, for example, and things like that. So just to pay closer attention to the general financial climate that's in the city and in the state at this time.
And also, we talked about, for 2008, 2009, not setting the goals for income items so great that they're unreachable, given that we seem to be in an economic crisis and that people are scaling back, nonprofits are struggling to make money, and it's becoming tight. So we wanted to set sort of increases, but ones that would be realistic, so that we could actually maybe meet the goals. And we can always revise for the next year if we find that, nevertheless, we continue to be really successful.
And that is sort of reflected in the more conservative estimates that you see, both in terms of how we estimate a little higher for expenses because we're unsure, but the trend has been to escalate, the cost is escalating, and also to decrease a little bit our revenues that were expected. So to keep it in line, that we're not looking at huge, it very well could be that we come back with much larger numbers, and that generally has been that we've shown cost savings in many of our events, but just to be on the conservative side in terms of the expectation that we set for the Commission's budget, that we stay on the conservative side in terms of erring on the side of caution.
Does anyone have any questions or comments on the budget as set forth?
I do. So you're saying that this is our general fund budget. We don't have another general fund budget. It comes from the the city. The $50,000 that was cut from the supposedly the Commission on the Status of Women, we don't have to be concerned with those. We still have support from the city manager's office. And
The support that comes in the city manager's office comes in two different forms. One is staff. You have staff support that is absorbed into the city manager's budget. And we also have sort of the, care and feeding of staff, which means sort of the administrative expenses that are affiliated with that. And that includes, by the way, the travel budget for the delegates for NACW and ACCW are included in that budget, not into this budget. This budget is the one that falls under the purview and the control of this commission. And the other one is administrative. This one is programmatic in nature. These are the funds that the commission raises annually. So this is it's not the grants. These are the Jules fundraising, the gathering of sisters' monies, those kind of revenue creating events that the commission has put on. Those are the funds that are reflected in this particular account. Not by funds, I mean monies that are reflected in this account. The other one is a general fund expenditure. There was no $50,000 cut specifically from the commission because the commission's budget in management services is absorbed into the whole. So as a whole, management services took a cut of about $187,000. And the monies so there's not a $50,000 carve out that's specifically to the commission. Nothing like that.
Okay. Any other questions or comments about the budget? Okay.
Yeah, I had a question about the Rosie Goes to Wall Street. Are we going to revisit our proposals after the Rosie Goes to Wall Street is over at the end of August? Or because I was looking at the numbers and I think we can there's some the proposed is different than what the actual is definitely going to be, isn't it?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I mean, just in terms of, for example, the labor expenses, personnel costs are going to be lower because for a smaller group like we had in the first session, I didn't hire a second person because it would be sort of an undue expense for the grant to bear.
Right.
We're also working with a smaller amount of money this year. We don't have the extra cushion of the Sir Optimus grant that we had last year. We're using that as operating expenses for that camp. So between that and the monies from the Women's Foundation, we're running on a much leaner budget this year for Rosie. And in addition, we've also got additional savings that we didn't anticipate. So we, for example, got a donation from American Apparel for 100 T-shirts that saved us about $600 in that budget. So we'll be coming back to the commission reporting on actuals versus the projected for the Camp Rosie as well.
Right.
We can use that as an assessment piece for going forward next year.
Right.
As to whether we need any changes here or whether it looks like we're good, and also for grant writing to see what kind of money we think we're going to need for next year.
Right.
But they are really two separate budgets that we keep track of separately. So this conversation is specifically about the program budget.
The program budget, right.
Any other questions or comments? Okay, then we need a movement. We need some movement. We need a motion to approve the budgets as set forward in the report. Is there a motion?
I so move.
Is there a second? Okay. Is there any further discussion as to the budget? Is the budget approved with unanimous consent?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you. Okay, the next item on our agenda is the calendar. Item 7AC, the master calendar of events, and a motion to provide direction regarding the calendar. Last month, remember, we weren't sure when our voting forum with League of Women Voters had been calendared, but we knew it was being bounced around, and it looks like we have a tentative date of October 9th. So what are we waiting for on that?
Confirmation of the venue.
Okay. Do we have a particular venue we're looking at?
Looking at two different ones, contemplating either the Central Library's auditorium or the police community room, looking for something sort of central. I met with League of Women Voters a week and a half ago, and we were sort of discussing some of the areas that we thought would be best. Spar Heights was very conducive to that setting, I think, because it was just the right size. We filled the room to capacity, which feels good for the people who are giving it as well as getting it. So we're looking to see if we can do that again, too. So just kind of exploring a few different options before we settle down on one place.
Okay, very good. Any questions or comments on the calendar? Any changes, additions, anything else that needs to be noted? Yes.
There was direction from the Commission last month to add the ACCW meeting for February. That date has still not been set by the board. Commissioner Lamella is the lead on that, and we had discussed sort of looking to see what availability is open in terms of different venues around the city. So I think we'll be working closely on that, and then we'll get back to maybe the board as well as the commission with any developments that happen.
If there's any dates that the not available, everybody could be there.
As close to possible.
Okay, even I don't book that far ahead. I'm like 2 or 3 months out, but February, I don't even have that calendar yet. Okay, do we need a motion then, since there's really no change at all, or? Okay, no changes having been formally made to the calendar, we'll move on to the next item on the agenda, which is 7AD, consideration and discussion of Girls on the Run Glendale, and a motion to provide direction regarding Girls on the Run Glendale. Ms. Haddad, would you like to make a presentation to us?
I would, just a very brief one. This item is here just to get general direction from the commission with regards to their desire to follow up on this item, to pursue it or not. We did receive some additional information from the Girls on the Run board, and what we thought was a free program will end up costing actually close to the tune of $14,000 for the year, which, given the fact that our budget was just approved, there really is, outside of external funding sources, there really isn't the possibility of doing it with the existing budget as it stands. So just looking to see if there's a desire to go out and seek that kind of money, but that's a kind of a substantial amount to look for, given that we're talking about a spring launch date for their program.
We had just one comment first, is that we thought that the $185, or they're looking to reduce it to maybe $140 per girl cost, covered the program, and then we thought they had additional monies and grants to provide the scholarships, as they indicated, for the girls who are indigent or whatever. It turns out that funds a part of the cost, but they still have other infrastructure costs that we did not foresee and clearly don't have in our budget. So is there still, given that, and I know you were going to speak, interest in pursuing maybe outside funding sources to still bring it to Glendale? And go ahead.
Okay, I just wondered if you could give us a breakdown of the $14,000. What does that include? Venue or?
It includes the cost of administration. They hire somebody for each one of the 4 sites that we've proposed that we wanted to bring the program to. So it's about $1,000 apiece per school in terms of the administering of the record keeping and that sort of thing. It also covers a cost of $115 per coach for each one of the campuses, and they use that to pay for background checks and things like that. It covers uniforms for the coaches, T-shirts, the registration for the runs, and things like that.
What does the registration fee cover?
For the 5K or 10K, that's the finale of the program.
That's what their tuition, this $145, that's what it covers?
The $140 for the girls?
Right. What does that cover?
It covers T-shirts, it covers the girls' registration, it only pays for about $4,000 of the $14,000 expense.
Oh, I see.
$13,500 is the expense.
So the total is $14,000 for 4 sites.
For 4 sites, yeah. $13,500 for 4 sites.
And we were discussing, like, sort of piloting or bringing it in shifts, and that was for 4 elementary schools throughout the city. So that wasn't even for bringing it to the whole, and I don't even think we looked at an assessment of what that would cost.
I had a recommendation. I was thinking maybe if we try the middle schools, since there are 3 middle schools right now. And 4, actually. 4 middle schools. So if we could just go to 4 middle schools, so that would cover at least the middle school girls. And I'm willing to actually approach other groups. And when Ms. Lindsay, Rolla Lindsay, was here last time, we talked about that with the Rotary Club. And there might be an interest with them sponsoring that.
The issue,
well, not all of it, some of it.
Some of it. The issue is that this curriculum for Girls on the Run is designed for girls 8 to 12 or 8 to 13. So it's a specific curriculum that would catch elementary school and not middle school, unless it was just some 6th graders. They have another program that they develop for the girls who move on, and it's a newer program, and I forget the name. Do you remember what the name of it?
Tiara?
No, it's something else. It's like a continuation. Oh, no, I'm mixing up nonprofit. Sorry. Most and more most. Okay. I have a lot of girl programs going on right now. Okay. Actually, theirs is specific to that age group. So I don't know that that's, it's designed for this age, so I don't think we could just shift it easily.
Well, other question is, could we do it like in 2 schools, or does it not cost effective? Could start it with 1 school or 2 schools? or is it not?
I'm sure we probably could. I think that we were just originally banding around like a reasonable way to start, and we were trying to cover a little bit of a geographic spread, but I think we could probably, I think the key is to start bringing it into the city, and maybe that's the way. Maybe you do a couple schools, and then a couple, and then a couple more, and use whatever outside funding sources we can do to fund that. That's actually a really good suggestion.
So, if it cuts the cost in half or less, then maybe we could look into that and then approach some community organizations and ask for funding. I mean, I, for one, am willing to do that outside of mission.
Okay, so I guess what we're here for tonight is to see, we had a high interest, and that's why we brought it back. We were all sort of marveling at this program and how we really liked it, and we'd like to see it brought to Glendale. Do we want to consider pursuing what we can do to bring it to the city and continue to work on it?
Mm-hmm.
I think maybe one school or two schools, since it's a pilot program, just see what the response is. And we can go from there. But I would like to pursue it.
And does the program work that if we have it at one site, then all of the district, that age group can be invited to attend that particular session? I mean, or is it just strictly for that school and that school site? Is that the way it works?
You can open it up to a larger group, but what you wouldn't want to do is do the expense of, say, advertising it to all of the schools when with one site you're limited to, I think it's like 12 girls or 20 girls or something, because then that's not cost effective to spend that much money to publicize when it's closed. So you would have to advertise to a smaller subset of the school, maybe, even if you did that. Like maybe you have one site, but you advertise to 3 schools and see what kind of response you get, or something like that. I don't know that amount, but that can be done, because sometimes they do it in a park, and then it's not school-based, and so the flyer would go out maybe through the school, or maybe even not, but you would have it at a site, and then it would be more open in terms of who would be eligible to come.
Right. And it seems like we would have a better chance of getting a full class. So why don't we ask you to bring this back with a report on what it would cost for one school, and
how many students really?
And how many students the maximum that they can take, and
or maybe some different breakdowns. 1, 2, doing it at a park, just some different options. So we have some amounts, and then we could see if we're interested in hitting up outside funding sources like Rotary to do a piece, and then seeing how it goes. If we're able to do that, we can expand in the future, possibly budget for ourselves or find additional outside funding sources. Okay, does that give enough direction?
Absolutely. I mean, it's very clear there's a majority of interest in pursuing the program, so we're excited to go out and find what there is to see.
Okay, then do we have a motion to empower Ms. Haddad to continue researching and looking into the feasibility of bringing Girls on the Run to Glendale in some capacity?
I so move.
Is there a second?
I second.
Any further discussion? Okay, is there unanimous consent as to that motion? Okay, that motion passes. Okay. Next item on our agenda is item 7AE, consideration of the August 2008 regular Commission on the Status of Women meeting cancellation, and a motion if we so desire. We have, I think, traditionally gone dark in August through a lot of vacations and conflicts, and it was often difficult to get a core group of people together. So what would be our August date?
The 11th.
The 11th.
August.
So I hate to lose work time, but we've got a lot going on that we need to work on. But I don't know what everybody's availability is, and it's pointless for me to be here if everybody else isn't. So anybody have any thoughts or feelings on that? Do we, it's not, we've done a lot of hard work this year, so I don't think it's out of the realm of reasonable behavior to take 1 month off, or although I guess we discussed we do take December off too. But we have a lot going on in September and October. So any thoughts on that? Do you guys have a desire to meet in August or to take that month off? Any thoughts?
Definitely want to
Speak now or forever hold your peace.
Well, I'm just thinking about the strategic plan that you would like us to update, and if we take that month off as well as December, how would that look as far as when we can get things accomplished as you like? So it would affect the timeliness of having an updated plan probably by the first quarter of 2009.
Actually, not, because I think we just were sort of taking that into consideration, that we would do policy and program in September, we would do the other two topic areas for October, we would work on a draft for November that could be fine-tuned and brought to in January. So I think we're actually okay from that standpoint. I'm sorry we lost tonight as a work session, because I think we could have gotten a good start on it, but be that as it may, I think we would still be okay from that perspective.
Okay. Well, if you're good with that, I'm good with taking August off.
Okay. Anybody else have any burning desire to come in August? Okay. Is there a motion then to cancel the August 2008 regular meeting?
Go ahead, Marie. I'll move that we take August off.
Okay. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Is there unanimous consent?
Yes.
Okay, we'll take August off, and we'll crack the whip in September.
It's a long time to think about the strategic plan.
Yes, it is, and please take time to go through it and come so that everyone is prepared to have a fruitful and meaningful discussion. That is really important. Okay, the next item on our agenda is 7B, reports information only. We have none. And next, that takes us to item 8, Commissioner and staff comments. We can just go ahead and go in order. Commissioner Katafian, do you have any comments tonight?
Yes, even though it looks like a short meeting today, but the items that we were going to discuss, at least the plan that we're going to prepare ourselves for that strategic plan, it's worth to have a consecutive meetings and pre-plan whatever we want to say. It will be easier for us to discuss it. And this meeting, I think, at least it gave us the opportunity to think about it and to prepare for the next meetings that we're going to have. That was the word for the meeting, I think, today's meeting.
Okay.
Even though there weren't too many varieties, but still to come and attend.
Okay, thank you. Commissioner Lamel?
I have a couple of announcements. One is the AARP Foundation has opened up their Women's Scholarship Program, and it's offered to women 40 years old and older whose income is within 150% of poverty. They are offering $500 to $5,000 per scholarship recipient, and about 100 scholarships will be given. The scholarship program will close August 31st, 2008. You just have to be a woman, age 40 or over, and enrolled in an accredited school or technical program within 6 months of the scholarship award date. For more information, go to www.aarp.org/women's with an S scholarship. And for additional information, you can also call 888-OUR-AARP. It's a wonderful opportunity to help women, especially those that are raising children alone and would like to get back into the workforce and learn some technical skills or otherwise upgrading what they already have. The other announcement is everyone's invited to the 4U Network monthly networking meeting, which is held at the Marie Callender's on 707 Pacific Avenue in Glendale from 11:30 a.m. to 1 p.m. every third Friday. This Friday is contracting opportunities with the city. Learn about that, as well as becoming a Women Business Enterprise certification, and which is free, and that helps small businesses and women-owned businesses be able to get better opportunities for contracting. And there will be one every third Friday, different topics. If you go to www.4unetwork.com, you will see a place that says Glendale Connections. Click on that, and you'll see the remaining events for the year.
Is it for you, the words spelled out?
Yes,
or?
FORYOU network.com.
Vice Chair Devine?
Well, tomorrow I'll be leaving for Albuquerque, New Mexico for the National Association of Commission for Women Convention. The theme this year is Girls of Today, Women of Tomorrow, and I'm proud to represent the Glendale Commission on the Status of Women, and in September I will come back with a brief report.
That's good stuff. Don't hold back. Okay, very good. Commissioner Manasarian?
Yes, I wanted to say that I attended Rosie Goes to Wall Street session with Commissioner Devine, and I was so thrilled to be there and see all our young girls really being empowered and learning how to communicate, how to express their feelings, and they were truly happy to be there, and that was really one of the high moments of my being a commissioner. I think that really I was very grateful to be there and see all our girls being empowered and learning about life and life skills, and I think that the community should really be proud that we have such a great program, and I'm really planning on working harder to get more and more girls involved, and hopefully in the future we'll have many girls going through the program. So thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Katapian, any comments? Kavanian.
I'm really glad to hear that the girls are having fun at the Rosie Goes to Wall Street, and, it's a really good opportunity. We never had any, we were never, so it's a really good opportunity. I'm really glad that, they're actually enjoying what they're doing and realizing how life actually is. That's it. Thank you.
Great, thank you. Commissioner Panmaki?
I'm good tonight.
Okay, great, thank you. Okay, Ms. Haddad, anything?
Oh, actually, only one thing. There is a training for the LA County Commission for Women's 5K, 10K run. The name has been changed from the Girls at Risk Run to the Ernie Van Leeuwen Memorial Run. There's a training for anybody who's interested. It's complimentary until the race, which is September 13th. They have got all kinds of paces, so you can either be a fast runner or a walker or a run walker or whatever is comfortable for you. But 7:30 Griffith Park off of Zoo Drive between the Travel Town and the museum. So it's free. It's really fun. A big group comes out and trains every morning, or every Sunday morning, so it's very fun. So you're all invited to attend.
7:30 until about what time?
Right now, because it continues into a half marathon training, so at this time they're about an hour and a half for the trainings.
Oh, sounds good.
And it's free.
That's better.
Okay, my only comment is when your packet is received, it would be very helpful if everyone reviewed everything in it and came prepared to the meetings, prepared to discuss, because I don't want us to lose meeting time where we're not prepared to do discussion. So that preparation should be done on your own time between the time that it's sent out and the meeting, and that's why we always have it sent out on like Thursday or Friday, so that you at least have a weekend or your workday Monday, whatever works for your schedule. So we need to be mindful of that so that we are prepared to have substantive discussion. Since our meetings are only every month, if we're not prepared to do that, we lose a whole month of work. Okay, thank you. Anybody else? Okay, we're adjourned, 7:26.